this was our last best chance to strike what we're doing right now and eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime.
So at the outset of the bombing, he was talking about regime change. He was talking about wanting the Iranian people to rise up and seize control of the government and the Iranian military surrendering to the Iranian people. He's not talking so much in those terms anymore. Now he's talking more about more limited military objectives, things like dismantling Iran's nuclear program, dismantling the Navy, limiting the range of its ballistic missiles.
Donald Trump more recently has talked about a big wave of US military action that is still to come. Like, I guess the hawks in Washington have really wanted this for a while in terms of action on Iran. Like, how invested will America be in deploying military assets in the Middle East?
Well, certainly the hawks will be very invested in it. As you say, this is something that they have wanted for a long time. They've really seen Iran as a thorn in the side of the United States, going all the way back to 1979, when a few months after the Iranian Revolution, militants seized control of the US embassy in Tehran and held American hostages for more than a year. And Trump even talked about that when he was justifying these attacks on Iran as one of these misdeeds that Iran had committed against the United States. But even though there are some Americans who are really enthusiastic about this, so far the polls are suggesting that the majority of American people are not.
As the conflict in Iran continues to reverberate around the world, it's worth looking at how it will impact the Australian economy.
Inflation's already at 3.8%. That's the headline level. So if people are already paying $2 a litre for petrol, let's say it goes up 40 cents a litre, you'd be paying $2.40 and you'll be paying another $22 a week to fill up, say, your Toyota RAV4. So that already hurts your household budget. Now, if there were to be another rate rise, that adds $110 a month to the typical $736,000 mortgage. So if you imagine paying more to fill your car up if you live in the outer suburbs, also paying more on your mortgage, that leaves less in the bank account for your savings. Maybe you put more on the credit card. So the effect would be on slowing the economy and also pushing up unemployment. It's now pretty low at 4.1%. But if you were to see unemployment rise to tackle inflation, that could see people either be out of work or have trouble finding another job where their skills match those required in the labour market.
And if petrol does go up, how does that spill on through the rest of the economy?
Well, I suppose there's the cost of transport and logistics. I mean, you can't really get the food at your supermarket unless you have it transported by the truck to all those depots at the Coles and Woolworths and the Aldis. And we saw this 4 years ago when Russia's Ukraine invasion led to some sanctions that pushed up crude oil prices and petrol prices. So even if we don't necessarily buy our oil directly from that part of the Middle East, which is Iran, it's the global supply of oil which does matter. And when there's a global conflict, there's less global supply of oil because some get stockpiled. Sometimes you even have oil refineries destroyed. And therefore that puts up the prices for everybody, and the flow-on effects of making, transporting goods around the country and globally, it affects us all.
A secret internal review into the coalition's landslide election defeat last year is all of a sudden not so secret. Andrew, you're joining me from the nation's capital, where today in Parliament, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese also had a copy of the review, and he's actually tabled it in Parliament.
The Prime Minister did so dramatically at the start of question time. And this, you have to remember, is a document that the Liberal Party didn't want made public because of some of the rather awkward and embarrassing contents inside the 64 pages, as it examines exactly what went wrong in its worst election result on record last year. The headline, I suppose, has been the scathing criticism of Peter Dutton and the way in which he took total control of last year's election. It also fairly unkind and probably unnecessary reference to Peter Dutton being unattractive to female voters. That certainly annoyed a lot of people in the Liberal Party that reference was included in the document. And then there's just rather awkward insights into the poor polling that the party had in terms of tracking voter sentiment and just some of the policies that were really, really unpopular. Well, there's several recommendations in that document, well over a dozen of them. And right now, Angus Taylor and his team are working through what they do with those recommendations, if anything. I suspect you'll never see a campaign run quite as it was in 2025. So that's first on the list.